Okay, hey guys, so today we're going to talk about how to do a Medline search, and also Pubmed and PsycInfo. All of these use the same idea using the keyword searches. So before you get here though, it's important that you have already done the process of coming up with all of the different keyword search options that you have, because we'll be using those for this search. So assuming you've already done that, the next thing I want you to think about and do is work through mesh terms. So now notice, we'll start off here by going to our library website, so lib.asu.edu. You'll notice here there's most used resources, and you'll see the three ones that we talked about, Medline, PsycInfo, and Pubmed are right there among the options. So let's first start off with Pubmed. Now the reason why I'm starting here is this is where we find our mesh terms. Now again, those stand for medical subject headings. Mesh terms are very handy because they allow you to more quickly find and search related topics. So let me show you what I mean by this. So what I want you to do is I want you to have your list of search options, words that you came up with, and all the synonyms related to it. And you're going to go to this mesh database, which was in Pubmed. You'll notice here now we're in mesh, and so what you can do is you can just put these in. So let's say, for example, you're interested in dietary habits. That's your term that you want to look for. That's the top idea you came up with. Now here's what we find out. That term is actually fitted under the mesh term food habits. And so that's pretty much what a mesh term is. A mesh term is a way of organizing a bunch of different search terms. See them all here, from food habit down to habits diet, and includes diet modification. All of these things are variations of keywords that scientists have used to describe their work. But you'll see there's a lot of times there's like these slight variations that occur, which make it difficult when you're using searches to find them. Mesh terms are used to basically try to organize that mess, so you don't necessarily have to use all of those search terms when you're searching. You can just put in one mesh term and it'll capture all of those keywords. So that gives you great advantage. It greatly simplifies the search that you're doing. The disadvantage, though, is that there is a group of people that actually do this. So you'll notice sometimes if you ever go into Pubmed or Medline, you'll notice there are in-process papers. These are the papers that have not yet been organized in terms of mesh terms. And so these are usually like within the past 6 months or so. And so when you use mesh terms, the only disadvantage is that you might miss some of the very, very most recent papers. But beyond that, it is a very handy tool. So particularly if you think that there hasn't been anything really major in the past 6 months, I would highly recommend you use mesh terms as your primary source of searching. So here's how you find them in Pubmed. You basically, what I want you to first do is I want you to use all of your synonyms and find your related mesh terms that you would be using. You'll also notice these often come in trees, and so you might want to, whenever you search these, you might look at the quote trees that are coming underneath and above it related to these mesh terms, and you might want to pull on some of those too if you think that they're appropriate for your given search. Okay, so next. Now, I want you to quickly see, I'm going to actually teach you how to do this in Medline just because I've gotten used to using that and I like some of the features there. But you'll notice I'm going to be getting into how to use this and, or, and not features. So you can see all of the stuff that I'm about to do in Medline is completely transferable into Pubmed. Okay, so let's now go back to our ASU website, our library website, and now let's go into Medline. Okay, so now we're in Medline. First thing I want you to do, make sure you have your search history up. This will be very handy for you. And so now you have your mesh terms. And so what I basically want you to do is I want you to search for those mesh terms. So for mine, remember I was doing a study looking at multiple behavior change interventions. So I wanted to know about diet, exercise, and intervention research. So I'm just going to put some of these in here. So you'll notice this is one of the reasons why I like Medline actually. When you search, it'll actually give you this reference towards what your mesh term is right here. And you can capture it. Now the nice thing though, you'll notice it also has this like search as keyword. This, when you put in this .mp, which is actually the same terminology in Pubmed, if you put in this .mp, this will actually do the search for you for all those in-process ones. So what I tend to do is I tend to use my searches, my mesh terms first. I find most of the literature, and then I limit just to the very last year, and then I use the keyword search in this sort of style. I'll show you that a little bit more. But you can also notice it gives you a lot of other recommendations that, again, you might have missed. For now, though, I'm just going to stick with diet. And now there's other mesh terms, though, that I thought were related. So there was diet, there was food habit. There's that. appetite regulation, and so on. You can keep doing this until you've got all of the little mesh terms that you want. Now, here's where the and or comes into handy. And basically tries to limit your study. So this is not what I want you to do now, but just so you can see, if we use an and option, this is the papers that mention diet and food habits and appetite regulation. On the flip side, though, right now we think these are all kind of variations of the same topic that we're looking for. So for this particular search, we want to use the or option. So you can notice we can just click through and then just hit or. And there we go. Now we've got all of these different papers that are related to that topic. So then you can do the same thing for your next one. So for the physical activity one, I know the mesh term is exercise. And then I can put in, just like with the other one, I can put in all the different related mesh terms, but just for the sake of teaching, I'm not going to do that. But imagine I did all of this where I have several different ones, I use then the or term and I have them mixed up. Then what I can do is I can just combine these. And so now I have all of the papers that mention diet and exercise in Medline. Okay? And you can keep doing this. You can add in all three of them. So like say, for example, we had a third one, the clinical trial. So what I can do now, if you expand this so you see all your options, you can then see I can just combine these. So I have my diet ones, my exercise, and my clinical trial. I hit and. Oh, and you can see that's actually a pretty small number of lists. So I think I might have picked the wrong number there. Yeah, but oh yeah, I used 4. See, I used the and option here, so it should have been 5, 6, and 8 instead. There we go. That sounds more reasonable. 351 papers that are related to that. So now you can also, that's probably a pretty good list actually to read through, at least for titles. But if you want to limit further, there are these options. So you click on limit, and then you can do things like these English languages. But the additional limits is where actually you get a lot of the good stuff. So if you click here, you'll see now I've got all of these options. So we've got English language, maybe a particular gender we care about, human subjects. These are talking about, types of reviews, if you have the full text available or not, the level of the journal. You can also do by age group and a variety of language, a variety of other topics. You'll notice here's that in process versus Medline. These are those most recent ones versus all of them. So you can limit those types of search. Let's do Medline, and then here we go. So I limited it, and actually that didn't limit it all that much because we were already in Medline, so we probably just took out the English language ones. So that's pretty much what you can do to get a nice, focused, limited search related to your topic. So now, a few things to note. You can now go through, if you want to get articles, you can just hit it, get it at ASU here. But what I tend to do is I tend to just read through these lists. I tend to also change the search page just to have 100. This is just personal preference. Okay, so I basically read through this. I get through all the little titles I want to read and think about. And as I click through them, let's say I care about that one and that one. That one, And I just keep going through the list. Once I've read through all the list, all 344 papers, when I'm done, I can then hit export. Okay? Now here is, remember we were talking about the reference manager, this is how we get it to it. So you see there's multiple options. The one I want you to, you'll notice EndNote or RefWorks if you want to use those. For Mendeley, it uses RIS as the option. So click RIS, use complete references, keep the search history, and then export this. This will create a file. Notice I just tend to keep them all on my desktop and replace them as I go, but you can keep them if you want, doesn't really matter. Once that's in, you open up your Mendeley account, you do add files, you find it in your, I put it in my desktop, but you find wherever that RIS was. Click on it, and then it should be pulling it in. Notice that little button. There we go. So now we can just see within our recent adds, were those just added? Yes. So you can see right now, these are the ones that I just added. And you'll see I've got the abstract, I've got all the information I need. So now I can read through this, I can pull up the PDFs if I want to link it up. You can just drag the PDF and link it up here. And you can write notes in here to keep track. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to run that search. I want you to create a group like this. So you just hit create group, just like you did before. Share it, pull all of those papers in. Let's say I'm going to, like so, say I want to do that one. Now I've got all these papers in this group. I'm going to share it with you, and then just share it with me so I can see your list. Okay, so that's pretty much how you run a Medline search. And your homework is to create that group and create that list. Okay. Now you can do the exact same thing with Pubmed, as I said, using the advanced search option. But again, I just tend to like Ovid. Another nice thing that I like about Ovid is that you actually can save your search history. Notice it right here. So if you click on this, you can create an account and then just save these. So if you ever need to run these again, which a lot of times you tend to run these things again, you can do that. You can also actually, when you create those accounts, you can actually also create an option to have the Ovid email you automatically at a certain time whenever to run those searches again for new papers. Again, a nice, very easy way for you to keep track of the literature. And that's all through this Ovid account. Okay? So that's Ovid. Pubmed, again, same thing. You have that, just use the advanced features to do the same thing. Now let me quickly show that, and PsycInfo is also using pretty much the exact same concept. Notice these and or not options. Notice our limitations that we can use. And then the one difference is they don't use mesh terms. Instead, they use this thesaurus. But you can do things like, say, here I'm looking for food habits. What's the kind of related term for this? Within PsycInfo, I guess it's more related to food allergies, intake, and so you can click on these and get a sense of, you know, the ones that you might want to use or broader terms that you might want to use, and you can start digging in and filling this up. You'll also notice here you can add these to your search, and so here we go. I've added it in, and then you can just keep going that way to add your mesh terms. So again, pretty much the same way. So the assignment for this week, or for this particular component, is to run a Medline and or a PsycInfo. It's fine if you run just one, but I prefer actually if you run them both. Run both of those searches, and then just send me the results. Okay. Oh, I forgot one thing that I want you to remember when you're running these searches. When you're running if you need to run the, if you're interested in the most 6 months, don't use the mesh terms. Use all those versions that you wrote up. And just put those in, and then you'll notice on the bottom there's usually when you run it in Medline, there's that bottom of like the MP. Just choose that, and then do the OR options just like you did before. And then search it with limit it to just those in-process ones, and then you'll find all the papers that you need. Okay, so that's how you do it, and then we'll move on to the next one after this. So good luck, guys. Let me know if you have any problems via the discussion board. If you have any questions, ask it there. Thanks, guys.